What's up, Army? Welcome back to Redemption 46 Studios. I'm Nick.
I'm Keith.
I'm Curtis.
I'm Jarek. And I'm Zach.
You know the vibes. Y'all seen the picture. Y'all seen the thumbnail. Y'all know why y'all here. Jimin alone. Don't have us alone by ourselves. Hit that subscribe button and become a real redeemer today. Also, it's not as lonely as you think on that Patreon. It's actually almost 2,000 people on there. Why don't you become a real redeemer? Jump on the Patreon. Get into that Jimin album review for Face. We got In the Soup. Come on, yo. What else we got?
Run BTS.
Vlogs.
Voyage,
Fallon Live.
Lives.
dance rehearsals.
Jarek's on there.
Want.
RM Live and Soul Concert.
Stechita.
Old content.
Yo,
new
speaking
content.
of which, bro,
Oh, Stechita with Jimin coming up.
Coming soon.
when does that drop?
I don't know.
Because I need that.
Yeah, I don't know. They did the whole fake joint, not showing who it was, but we know it was
we know
Jimin.
who it was. We saw the smile. We know who the fuck it is, bro.
Yeah, so that's gonna be interesting. It's funny because you keep talking about all these drinks, and then they're gonna be on there drunk as shit. I know they're gonna be on there spilling the tea.
You know Jimmy gonna be fucking giggling and rolling across the floor and shit. There's gonna be a time.
Yeah, but alone. Before we jump into this, do any of y'all got a feel for what y'all think this is gonna be? Do y'all think this is gonna be the ballad?
This might be one of those reflection songs, so it might be a slow ballad.
A ballad with a twist.
Interesting.
A twilight.
That sounded crazy.
Hey, yo.
Trap
I
ballad.
don't know if we can say that.
Fuck, I'll blurt that out. You offended someone.
I'll go R&B.
He said a slur.
You said you'll go R&B.
I'll go R&B.
He said a slur.
You said it was gonna be like, fuck you, man. We in Alone Talk. Let's jump into Alone. We're gonna be alone after we get canceled. Got to.
That's a hit, yeah.
Got to. Oh, somebody calling him.
언제부터였을까 눈앞에서 웃고 있는 모두가 무섭게 느껴져 도망치려 했지만 갈 길을 잃어버린 지금은
He's getting real breathy.
스위치 잠들고 기억이 나지 않을 때 생각해봤어 지금 내가 뭘 하고 있는 건지 왜 나만 이런 건지 아니 모두가 그렇지 매번 괜찮은 척하는 내 모습이
They're not
한심하게
pathetic.
느껴져 똑같은 하루가 또 다시 이렇게 얼마나 버텨야 난 돌아갈 수 있을까 차갑고 쓸쓸한 말
Oh, this girl is sexy.
생각 없이 불 켜진 방 안을 걸어 나 홀로 괜찮다 했었지만 점점 날 잃어가는 것만 같아 And day and night 반복되는 보백 원하지 말고 Make it right, it's gonna be alright.
Nice reference.
Lie. That sound like kids.
이럴 듯한 변명을 해봐도 또 눈을 감고 외면을 해봐도 알잖아 힘이 망가진 걸 되돌릴 수 없는 걸 똑같은 하루가 또 다시 이렇게 어떻게 해야 이 어둠이 끝이
shit crazy on this. Zach, pull up who did the production.
The production feels equally as dark too.
Yeah, 5 for 5. That man's a genius.
Yeah. This
It's
might be
the
one of my
build-up.
favorite. This might be one of my favorite joints now.
All them other songs got us to here. And boy, what a journey has it been to...
P-Dog,
Finally feel
Jimin,
this
Ghost
way.
Loop, and Evan.
Wow.
Nice.
Good call too, Kurt. Definitely more of an R&B like aesthetic and vibe. The production on here was God tier. I love the cadences he had on here. I love like the harmonizations and kind of like the layering that he did throughout the course. The
It's a perfect album.
real shit. Wait for our album review. Make sure you guys jump on the Patreon. It felt Timberland-esque. The whole live thing, and I don't know if those were kids or something that were like in the back and shit. Did you hear it on
Yeah,
there too?
it might have been him.
Yeah, it could have been. But it just not saying like the kids were like random, but you know how Timberland sometimes those like random things kind of within like the instrumentations.
I'll wait, but go ahead.
Okay. But with that being said, I really like this groove and just kind of like this melody a lot. I felt like this was a good juxtapose to kind of everything that we were hearing on the album, as far as everything kind of being a little bit more, I guess, hyper ballads or pop trap type sounds and stuff like that. This was kind of just a good palate cleanser a little bit if you were just kind of going straight down the album. I do still want to hear what Like Crazy, the English version is, just to kind of get a little better sense if anything was kind of like quote unquote changed again. Again, I'm with you on the type time where I don't think they're going to change too much of anything. I think it's probably just still going to be kind of straightforward.
Yeah, you might get some translation changes, but other than that,
But other than that, like this was phenomenal. Like my only gripe with the album is that we didn't get more tracks. It's you have basically like what 5 God tier like tracks. The interlude was crazy as shit, and it's just like even squeezing out 3 or 4 more, I think would have just kind of put this like somewhere else. Still wild to me.
It's perfect because you don't want to give people something that's too good all the time. You know what I mean? Like, you ever heard the saying, something, I forgot what it goes like, but it's like,
You can paraphrase.
it's like, for example, too much of something.
Too much of a good thing.
Yeah, too much of a good thing
Is a
isn't
bit.
really good for you. You know what I mean? So you can't always have greatness.
Whoever said that didn't have enough of that good thing.
Yeah, but like, for example, I'm sure we all here can enjoy a nice steak. Can't eat steak every hour. I mean,
You could. It's not
great.
healthy for
I
you.
was gonna say you can.
You can if you want to. It's just not too healthy for
if
you.
you get it all the time, though, is it great?
Yes.
Yes.
At some point, does the value begin to depreciate?
you sound like Eddie Murphy in Vampire in Brooklyn. If it's always sunny, you never get a rainy day.
Well, I guess my thing is if I'm looking at these earlier projects, like let's use Drake for example, like So Far Gone, and it's just like this is a classic. That's
Right,
not going to
but
stop you from doing a Take Care.
Imagine if Drake dropped like every month, every 2 months.
He does.
An album though?
Not so much as
Nice little
he.
single or something, but
As far as American artists go, he dropped just as much. Only person dropped more than him might be like Chris or something, where he like over. I get what you mean. You don't want to over.
You don't want to Kevin Hart the situation, oversaturate. Yeah.
Yeah, you just turned this into something else. You know damn well this should have had 2 or 3 more like Jones on it. I still.
the thing is, if
fuck
it
with the
did,
album, though.
unfortunately, he would have been lifted to a stratosphere where we cannot bring him back down.
Well, he was born into the stratosphere and he's ready.
And the thing is, then we'll start asking crazy questions like,
No, we
is he
won't.
being held back?
We already knew where this was going, bro.
Yeah, like no, we whoa.
Future Nick.
I'll ask that question. No future Nick.
No future Nick.
Don't you dare.
Keep that in there. These are important journalistic questions.
Anybody that's been here since day one knows Jared's character arc. Nah, but with that being said, like I said, before people jump in the comments with like pitchforks and shit, it's not to take away it's not to take away anything from the album. It's just it is one of those things where
So
you were
great.
given something so great, you want a little bit more of it, and it feels like, you know, maybe I want to say maybe like was it a little bit more to tell because like kind of like you said, Keith, just kind of. Well, I'm gonna save some of it for the album review, but it does feel like it was a little bit more left to be said. Like everything didn't kind of come full circle.
Cliffhanger ended.
Yeah, I mean, it really depends on how you took Set Me Free. Now, mind you, from like a first watch and listen, we kind of took that one way. Now, hearing the entirety of the album, now you might be able to maybe take that like another way where it's just like, well, you know, maybe it was some closure to what was going on, because out of all this trying to find like your inner self and doing everything, at the end of the day, I was set free from whatever limitations or whatever was holding me back or whatever guilt I felt or anything else. I was set free and I'm fine now.
I think it's a beautiful, you know, like stepping stone. It's like, you know, set me free from whatever it is that I want to be free of. You know, I have this face off. I move along. Eventually I feel like things are getting like crazy. Now I'm all alone and I have to deal with this, and I've dealt with it, and I think I'm okay with it.
Album review, like, comment, subscribe, hashtag Redeemers. Thank you, Jared. Say nah.
Jared got it.
Yeah, but I'm gonna shut up, Zach. How you feel?
I won't say this is probably my favorite, but it's probably definitely top 2 out of the 5 on the track. I mean, on the EP. This was definitely. This is definitely smooth. Definitely a different lane from the other songs, but definitely gives you a break from like. I don't want to say upbeat, but like get you going or get you out your chair.
5 BPM.
Yeah, definitely that. Jimin, you did it.
No, it definitely is the palate cleanser, and I think that's why I could see a lot of people who having this as like they 2 or 3 just because of the shift where it's and like I said, I honestly don't think neither one of Face Off, Set Me Free, or like Crazy don't particularly sound the same to me, but I do think they are like quote unquote like mood music.
Yeah.
To where you kind of can like almost just vibe out and gel to it, and this kind of is more of that kind of straight up R&B-ish a little bit like type vibe and feel. So I feel, you know, people gonna really click to this one, I feel like, a lot. People who don't like it, especially, I feel like it may be some people who, I don't want to call them like core Jimin fans, or, you know, people who might associate certain things with Jimin. They might not like those trap elements or anything like that. They might have wanted him to kind of more so be on this type time. So I'm just gonna be very interested to read the comments and see how many people what they like more of, you know what I mean? If people was like, this is what we wanted, like, you know what I mean?
But honestly, I feel like that's part of the whole Set Me Free thing, where it's like, you know,
don't put me in a box.
What expectations people, you know, have for you, and then what you have for yourself and what you choose to present yourself. I don't think it's a stretch to say that, you know, the intent behind it was to showcase, you know, like all these different kind of elements that you feel most passionate about exploring. At least in, you know, relation to the context that we have so far.
I thought the song was really good. It's kind of what I expected. I expected a slow song, being self-reflective and internalizing, and that's exactly what we got. To answer your question, the lie, right? That was him talking to himself. 3 times in this song, he says, I'm alone, I'm alone, I'm alone. So everything that he's saying to what it sounds like to be somebody else, he's saying to himself. It's internalizing. Even some of the lines are like almost back and forth. You know what I mean? I try to want to run away, you're lost right now. You know what I mean? He's talking to himself. I tried to run away, and then he's looking in the mirror, and his mirror's telling him, you're lost right now.
First and second person.
Because like he's literally, and he says, it's the beginning of every hook. I'm in a dark room by myself. You know what I mean? So anything that he's saying, anything that he hears, any response that he gets is from him. And he's just like, you know, I don't I get drunk every day. I come back to my room. I pass out. This is my routine in this COVID, world. I want to go back to before this, but how do I go back? You know what I mean? How long do I have to stay like this? How long is this going to end? I mean, how long is this going to, happen? When does it end? And it's just like, it's so relatable for those who who might have had COVID and really couldn't do much of anything during this time, because we also forget, we were locked down, but a lot of people were suffering with the catalyst of the lockdown. So just being able to kind of see it from another point of view, where it's like, every day, every night, I'm just kind of stuck here. You know what I mean? It's just
question to
yes,
Keith.
sir. Yes, sir.
Really, to really double down on what you're saying too. I wonder if some of the greatest artists will either paraphrase or say something and could be talking about one thing and be talking about multiple things. I am wondering.
Me and my girlfriend.
I am wondering if some of the self-doubt that you hear him talk about on the album could also be him kind of talking about his purpose in music. A lot of the stuff that was going on, with Hope, with Arm, and a lot of them talked about how a lot of members had a lot of self-doubt in what was their purpose and the group solo work and just kind of what do we do after this, because now you get things yet to come now, and things kind of where it seems like everyone put all their thoughts on wax and now they have some clarity with kind of what's going on. But I wondered, do you kind of pick up any of that type of stuff?
So I'm going to answer your question with something that you've said. When we've had people who might have left Redemption or whatever, the question that's usually asked, well, what have you done before Redemption? And what are you going to do after? So most people find their identity in a group, which is fine. Some people find their identity before they get to the group. So they're always who they are, and that's that. But some people find their identity in the group, and then some people, when that group is taken away, loses their identity because they're no longer with that group that identified them. So it's, who are you outside of this? Perfect example, drum line. Great, you can play, you're the best, but who are you without the line? Who are you? What are you going to do? Are you still going to play? Are you going to quit? Are you going to give up? Because nobody's pushing you, because nobody's telling you what to do. Nobody's saying, hey, practice 3 times a day. Hey, you got to go dance for 2 hours, because nobody's there on your ass. Are you still going to have the same drive, the same love for this without anybody there to kind of walk you and be your crutch?
One band, one sound.
So being that that's the case, a lot of people get nervous because now it's just me. It's just me and my sound. What if they don't like my sound? I don't want to sound like BTS, because that's at a core not who I am. Although that sound is popular, that's not my sound. So do I display my sound? Do I let these people in to see who I am musically as a person? Or do I just give them more of what they've already gotten for the last 7 albums and are very, very happy with? You know what I mean? It's who are you? And are you afraid to show people who you are?
No, that drumline analogy was kicking, because he actually was uber talented prior to being in the drumline, but he couldn't read music. He was an asshole and everything else. And through the group, he learned how to better all his skills that he didn't really have, and made skills that were already elite even better. And could be one with the group and one without the group. Good analogy. Kurt, how you feel?
Yeah, I definitely like this a lot. It's definitely at least up to what we've seen chronologically in the album. It's definitely I don't want to say necessarily just the midpoint or anything like that, but not just because of the literal sense of the track list, but it's you definitely feel this is where a lot of that changes, as far as perhaps some of the pop trap elements that you were kind of mentioning. So I definitely like this switch, because it's even if you're having those proverbial highs of kind of whatever the elements are in those earlier tracks, as far as the party aspects and just kind of the psychedelic kind of escapism of it, perhaps the fact that when you kind of get all that away, this is when you come down from that high, so to speak. So I think that's like a really interesting kind of way as far as, I mean, literally basically starting off the track saying that, like, you know, you're kind of walking into that room and everything, you know, being alone, lights are off. Like, you're just basically, I'm now away from this kind of setting. And as you had said, like just kind of echoing those themes of like, you know, who am I when I'm away from like that party setting or you know, whatever I'm using to escape. And I like that you had also said, you know, the people who literally did have, you know, COVID and everything as far as like not being able to move or kind of do much of everything, and you're just kind of stuck in your thoughts and, you know, dealing with everything. So it's like all that internal kind of conflict and everything that you kind of have to, you know, make sense of. But aside from like, you know, those thoughts, one of the biggest takeaways for this for me was what he had said towards the latter half, which, you know, of course they were incredible references to throw in the tracks, but when he had said, you know, like it was a reference to Make It Right, when he basically said Make It Right, but he had done right after that he had said lie, 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 and I think he said it like 5 or 6 times, but basically when he had said that, it was like, you know, it kind of makes a little bit of sadness out of those tracks, perhaps, in a way where it's like, you know, because if it's like, you know, saying I'm able to make it right, and then you're calling into effect that it's a lie, you're kind of questioning and facing that, like, no, I can't, you know, and to say lie, like, you know, 5 or 6 times immediately after that, like as Keith had said as well, the conversation with yourself, and it might feel like that thing again, you know, the whole idea of face, you know, the persona that you put on, and just kind of knowing that this is about, you know, perhaps the pandemic and everything. At least, you know, the seed of the idea for all this. So imagining, you know, someone on stage like Jimin or someone, you know, of the idol status of BTS, even though, of course, you know, they're in like a league of their own, but just knowing that, you know, imagine them, you know, kind of when they're making like the B album and everything like that, when it's like, you know, we're trying to pass healing on to everyone. But essentially, if you're kind of looked to be the beacon of light, and you internally feel like that's a lie, where it's like, you know, I'm going through my own shit too. So it's like, I can't, like, I'm still struggling with the same things, but you almost feel like it's a lie, putting on that face kind of to tell everyone that it's going to be okay, and that you're going to kind of, you know, walk through it and things will get better, you know, kind of those old, like, adages or proverbs, to where, like, perhaps it feels a little bit empty. And it's like, even though you're casting, you know, like a real change in doing what you're doing, you still have to wrestle with that idea. Where it's like, how can I expect people to kind of latch on to me and to believe in me when, you know, I don't either believe in myself or kind of am struggling with the same things, to where it's like you almost feel like a little bit of a hypocrite perhaps. So it's again like all those trivial kind of self-doubting thoughts and everything. And it's not to say that this is about that specifically, but it's about that internal struggle of kind of wrestling with those ideas seemingly, regardless of, you know, where you end up with it. To go through any kind of healing of anything, I mean, you often hear the analogy like the light at the end of the tunnel or anything. I mean, you have to go through that darkness and sift through it, almost like, you know, 5 stages of grief sort of thing, like coming to that place of acceptance. You have to, you know, go through that denial and kind of, you know, those other like stepping stones, I want to say, to kind of get to that eventual, you know, healing phase. So I just think that that's really interesting how they kind of cast it in on that. But as far as the production and everything and everything he did vocally on this, the breathiness for sure, the ad-libs were stuff that stood out for me. I love that it's in much more of a lower register. And again, kind of I like that it's, you know, we know how incredible his high notes are and everything, but, you know, if his register is a much higher register and you're having him sing in a lower register, you're automatically casting like a bit of weight on him as far as like, you know, depression or kind of like sulkiness or like, you know, like it just adds a little bit kind of, you know, because we've heard about those things with Lie, like how incredible the production is as far as like, you know, so he just seems like he's like an incredible perfectionist in that regard too. So knowing that he's singing in a lower register to kind of add to some of that weight and the breathiness that he had with it, it just kind of feels like a lot more depressing and, you know, like there's a lot more weight on him, which again, you know, could be another interpretation of the Set Me Free thing as far as, you know, as you had said. So all those aspects I really liked for sure. I love that they added the reverb during that initial part when we said like fall again, basically. So basically, the kind of beat itself did that like loop,
Like the
reverse to basically show the repeating of every day, and it might have only been for like a second or two, but it added like a lot of
that shit hit.
yeah, it added a lot
Shit
of
hit.
because you're trying to essentially create an immersive experience where you're trying to put the audience in the mind state, and I just thought that was a great choice to kind of portray that loop without necessarily becoming like too looped into like singing the same hook or anything for a certain amount of time. I just think it was a great production choice as well. But yeah,
kind of keeping it to the creative aspect of it. Like if this is all one music video anthology straight through, I'm doing like maybe like him just throwing tantrums, drinking, passing out, maybe waking up in the same spot, same position every single time. Always go back to that shot, beginning a very new day, just to kind of beat it into the head that that's what it is. But at the end of the video, he falls asleep, and maybe that vision that he has, that dream, is what set me free. Because it does seem like, okay, I've been alone. You having this conversation with yourself after 3-4 songs. You finally realize that the issue is you. You try to address the issue, and then you're having this internal battle that's high stakes and set me free, which is why it's an auto-tune, because it's drowned out. You're still, like, it's in your head, and it also takes place in a dome. It kind of gives that vibe like it's, like it's an internal sort of thing, not a whole bunch of set pieces. It just kind of like fits. If like from a conceptual standpoint, like to me that makes a lot of sense. And then at the end, you kind of have a change of mentality, and that's when he changes clothes or whatever. But all in all, it definitely feels like it could be a good story to tell if you were going to make connecting videos in that sense, especially the things that this addresses. Because I don't want to speak for anybody else, but like COVID put a lot of things in front of people's faces that they weren't ready for. Because it's like, okay, everybody thinks they're a good person, but when you're alone with yourself for an extended period of time, did you have fun? Like, were you happy? Like, were you cool with the person you were? Well, where your thoughts went? You know what I mean? So it definitely, right. And that's not even drowning out all that with alcohol. That's just being sober and having to actually deal with it. You know what I mean? So it's interesting. I fucks with it. I like it.
Yeah. Kurt, anyone else want to add anything else?
No, I'm just curious if this is essentially because the remaining track then would be the all English part.
Correct.
Or okay. So essentially, if there's no like dramatic changes in that as far as the storytelling or anything we had seen, this would essentially be what leads right into Set Me Free Part 2. So again, kind of as you had said, some of those like filling in those pieces, and I think it's just really interesting on a creative level that you can essentially have an MV tell a story of that particular song, yet also represent the entire album, almost outside of that too. So I just think that's really incredible when you take kind of both of the MVs specifically that we had gotten, and kind of just recontextualize them with those sort of things as well. Because even when I was saying the Like Crazy video, and obviously this isn't like the album review or anything, but it seemed like it was in reverse because you see the background kind of moving backwards. But it's like, when he's laying at the table or whatever, you see that shot, and then you see presumably, the memories of like, the previous night and everything. But then when you get to the end, that's when you see the mud on his hand or whatever. So perhaps like, as far as like, going through these thoughts and everything, whether it's like, what you thought it was versus like what it kind of actually is, or like realizing the error of those things. Because how you often say like, blood's on your hands or whatever. Having mud on your hands is kind of a similar way to connect that analogy of like it being your fault. So I don't know if that's perhaps an interpretation for that, but nonetheless, that's something that, hearing this track kind of helped give me perhaps a little bit more of a different way to interpret something. So it's just, I love this track was, definitely one of my favorites on the album, I would say, at least, up to this point.
I guess Jimin could have been in Tenet. Jump in the comments. Tell us how y'all felt about this. If you're not subscribed, I don't know what y'all doing. This is the realest and the best YouTube reaction channel on the entire universe. Also, for more content like this, make sure you jump on the Patreon. We're about to get into the album review like crazy, English version. The Jimmy Fallon interview is up on there as well. Dance Practice for Set Me Free Part 2. Other BTS related stuff is on there, like In the Suit, Run BTS, Bon Voyage, live performances, and more. Thank you, Army, for spending your time with us today. We love y'all. Thank you for the
Love y'all.
support.
Take care.
Peace.